a movie.
Ooh, okay. Welcome back to a new video, a new review, actually. I got the headband in for this one, and I actually got a copyright claim on the ballerina review because I forgot to put up the blocker. But here we go. Okay, that's what it is. Today we are going to be reviewing The Life of Chuck, the newest movie from Mike Flanagan, based on the Stephen King short story. And I guess the general premise of this, without spoiling it, and I'm not going to spoil any of this because there is a lot to spoil from this movie somehow. We are basically following the life of a man named Charles Krantz. Throughout, we see his life, or at least in this movie, we see a bunch of important life changing moments of his life. He's played by Jacob Tremblay as a kid and Tom Hiddleston as an adult, and it is pseudo led by Tom Hiddleston. He's the first name on the credits, he's on the poster, he's in all of it, but he's actually really only in two or three scenes. He is really good in those two or three scenes though. I'm getting too ahead of myself though. But this movie boasts a pretty crazy ensemble cast. Chiwetel Ejiofor is in this. Karen Gillan, Mark Hamill, Mia Sara from Ferris Bueller's Day Off is in this. And Matthew Lillard, who's great in his one scene that he's in, and then Carl Lumley. There's a lot of different names in this. There's a lot of people in this movie, and all of them really knock out of the park what they are doing. And also, I'm forgetting that now. I should have checked. Benjamin Pajak also plays Chuck as a kid, so it's not entirely Jacob Tremblay. And I will have to admit, this movie does have a very interesting structure in of itself. Oh, I gotta loop that. The movie has an interesting structure in that it is told. It flips the three act structure of a movie. So we start with Act 3 of the movie, then go to Act 2 and Act 1. It's an interesting choice. It's not like Memento, where the scenes are playing backwards, or like you are going scene to scene and it is reverse chronology. No, we are starting with Act 3, it goes in its order, and then that ends, and then we go to Act 2 in order. And I like that a lot, actually. And I will say, this movie really, because I have not read the short story by Stephen King. The third act, or the beginning of the movie in this case, has an interesting post-apocalyptic twist to it. Not really a twist. I just didn't know what, like, it was going to start off like that. That's where a lot of the ensemble cast is, like Chiwetel and Karen Gillan and Carl Lumley and Matthew Lillard. They're all pretty much in that first act, and they are all seeing billboards of this guy named Chuck that are celebrating 39 great years. 39 years of what? I don't know. Or we don't know in that moment, and none of the characters do. So it throws an interesting element in there of, wait, what is this movie going to be? Like what is this? I thought we were looking at the life of this guy named Chuck, and neither any of the actors that play Chuck, whether it's Tom Hiddleston, Jacob Tremblay, or Ben Pajak, they're not in this movie. You see billboards of Tom Hiddleston, but they're not in the beginning of this movie at all. And after Act 3, which they title it Act 3 in the movie, uh, the rest of those actors really aren't in the movie. I'm not gonna explain why or what I think it is because they kind of say what happens with that, but they don't say it directly. And that's a great choice from Mike Flanagan, who wrote and directed this movie. And Mike Flanagan mainly works in horror. He has a lot of Netflix miniseries like The Haunting of Hill House, but he has also directed a bunch of Stephen King adaptations. He's done Gerald's Game, which I think is Stephen King. That's also on Netflix, where a lot of his miniseries are. He's actually doing a new adaptation of Carrie, so he's very much still in the Stephen King realm. But he has also adapted Doctor Sleep, which is the sequel to The Shining. That that really nailed he really nailed that one. So I was really excited to see what he would do with something that's not horror. And all of his projects I've seen do have heart to him. Even the one Blumhouse movie that he did, the Ouija prequel, which that has a lot of heart to that one. And this one is not a horror movie at all. There's some sci-fi elements in here, but it's really just we're really focusing on the characters in this one. And then the problem is with that, while I've had to think about this movie for a while. At the time of recording, I saw this pretty much 2 weeks ago now because um, Regal Cinemas has a mystery screening every once in a while on Mondays, and it's a $5 ticket. And we don't know what it is. All we know is that it is an upcoming movie. And the one I saw was The Life of Chuck. So I've had a lot of time to think about it and how this movie has how I've thought about this movie for a while and how much it has affected me, especially closer to the end of the movie where we're seeing Chuck as a kid, as well as a Mark Hamill who plays his grandfather in this. Which, by the way, I'm going to say about Mark Hamill, maybe it's because it's in June. I would love for him to get like an Oscar nomination for this movie. I don't know if he's going to win. Obviously, it's the middle of the year, but this is probably the best work I've seen from him in a very long time. But we also have to look at how the three-act structure just is really flipped and used very well in this. We are seeing a lot of foreshadowing for what happens in Act 3 or the beginning of the movie more and more as this story unfolds and what Chuck learns as a kid when he's in school and what he rediscovers when he's an adult. And it is really just it was really moving when I realized what this movie was, especially when we had that very strange post-apocalyptic opening. And and it does feel in line with the movie. It doesn't distract from this movie. But I will say the one barrier that I have with this, at least with Chuck as a character, is I mentioned this earlier. We don't really get to know Chuck that much. We only see the really important life moments. We don't see anything in between those. And outside of Tom Hiddleston, where he's really only in the big scene he's in is pretty much in all the trailers. Actually, I think all of the scenes he's in are in this trailer right here. But don't let if you're a Tom Hiddleston fan, do not let that deter you from watching this movie. He is really great in this. But I feel like not getting the extra details about his life, like outside of like really broad strokes, will deter a lot of people with this. I felt the same way with another movie that came out earlier this year called Warfare, which is a great movie. I would highly recommend it. But that barely had any character development, and the people that I know have seen it, and we've talked about it, they've pointed that out in terms of like, oh, like, there wasn't really a lot of character development in Warfare. And I'm thinking that this could be in the same vein. Maybe not to the extent as Warfare, where there's literally no character development in that movie, but we can see what is going, like, we can see the mechanisms turning. But in my personal opinion, I would have liked to see that just a little bit more, but it did not bother me because what I liked so much about this movie that it just did not bother me. But I feel like this movie could have benefited from seeing like just a little bit more because it's a relatively short movie. I think this is around like an hour 40, maybe a little bit longer than that, but it is less than 2 hours. And this is a very ambitious movie, which I commend. I think Mike Flanagan did a great job with the direction of this. I mean, it may not be like the craziest looking movie out there, but we are doing something that is a very human story. And this feels like it's very realistic, even with the more heightened sci-fi elements of it, even if that's just in the first act. And that's such a good way of being able to look at this and not be distracted by everything else going on, literally and figuratively, in this movie. And I really think it worked out. So I'm going to pause that right there. I think The Life of Chuck is one of my favorite movies of this year so far. It might be top three. I was really moved by this. Actually, you know what? I'm going to take down the copyright thing just for the title card. Maybe that won't get me in trouble. But Yeah, really. I think The Life of Chuck was really moving in a way that I was hoping it would be, but it was also a bigger gut punch than I expected it to be. I cried at least 3 times. And I like to think that I'm a pretty emotional person, so this got me quite a few times, even in very small ways. And I feel like, will this become a classic? This trailer touts that this is the best Stephen King movie ever. Maybe I wouldn't go that far. Because, we've gotten some crazy books that have been turned into, films from his work. So, but to me personally, out of what I've seen, it's absolutely up there. I think it's up there with Doctor Sleep and some of Mike Flanagan's best work. Well, I mean, personally, I just really like Doctor Sleep. I know a lot of people don't like that one. But regardless, I think out of his movies, this is Mike Flanagan's best movie. I would really love to see an adapted screenplay love for this, at least in some awards. Hopefully it gets to the Oscars, but I would love to see Mike Flanagan at least get some consideration for that. I feel like that would be really great to see. But either way, I'm going to give The Life of Chuck an A. I know I said I had problems with it, but I feel like they're just so minuscule in how much greatness is in this movie, and I am just gonna leave it at that. And yeah, it's in theaters right now. Let me know what your favorite Stephen King adaptation is. What's your favorite thing that Mike Flanagan has made out of like shows, movies, and all of that. So just let me know. And I think that is going to be the end of the video.